We gather in the cosmos bright. Stars and ships take flight tonight. In the void where dreams do play, soul citizens lead the way. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads and endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed. Squadrons call on the horizon. Battles fought, our hearts aren't frightened. In our ships we face the dawn. Soul citizens carry on. Oh, planets spin and light years fly. Boundless space where hopes reside. Motherhood in every star. Soul citizens, here we are. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads and endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed.
I feel lost.
Lost? What do you mean?
I feel lost.
Lost? What do you mean?
Hey, greetings. Welcome back to Soul Citizens. I'm GriffinGmaingRPG, and today is Sunday, April the 27th, and I am joined today with my good friend and co-producer, the one and the only Fastcart FC. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. And this is episode 250. 250, Griff.
250, 250, 250.
250.
250,
That's right.
250.
You're right.
Yeah, this is our 250th episode of our Sunday show, The Soul Citizens, and it's wow. I guess we're a quarter of a way to 1,000, if you want to look at it that way, right? I don't know. I don't know if I want to look at it that way.
No, we're twice as much as 125. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Or halfway to 500. I'll meet you halfway to 500.
I agree. That one I can swallow a little bit better. Yeah, but we are happy to be here with you guys today, and we're excited to be able to share with you our show today. Just some real quick shout outs. We haven't done shout outs in a little while, and we want to do it because a lot of you guys are the ones who kick us off right at the beginning of the show. We've got New Soul Sounds, Pops, The Prisoner, not The Prisoner Fastcart. The Prisoner is here. Maverick is here.
I just want to call him the Prisoner. How about that?
I think he emphasizes those two E's. So we have to go with The Prisoner. He's the one and only. Citizen Ninja, good to see you as always. We really appreciate you all being here. Citizen Joel's here. Awesome. DC Creator is here, my buddy. Oh boy, I know. Hopefully you got some rest, brother.
We have a slight tech thing. They say your volume is low, but mine is good.
Yours is okay. Mine is low and yours is good. Okay, gang. How's that? Is that better? Am I louder now?
That sounds better to me.
Does that sound better?
And you're not clipping to me yet.
Okay.
But yeah.
Is that better now? Better.
There you go.
Better. Okay,
I'm gonna turn you down.
DJ Psychosis is here. Hey, DJ Psychosis, good to see you as well. Maverick too. Also, thank you. We really appreciate you all being here to help us kick this show off today. The title of the show today, as you can see, is The Alpha Bet. The Alpha Bet. And
it's 2 words. I thought we were doing like a soup or a recipe or something.
I see. So I didn't really talk to Fastcart in great detail about this, so I'm going to ask him, what does he think when he looks at that title? We might be talking about.
I figured it out now because
Okay.
I was doing the pre-show. The pre-show, I was like, that's an interesting title.
Okay.
I'm guessing it's like a bet on Alpha, but then as I was doing the show notes, I figured it out. You want me to say what I figured out?
Sure,
Or you want
I'd love to hear it. What you
Okay.
got?
Okay, so you're saying like the bet of Alpha instead of like you switch the words around. You're thinking about how will Star Citizen pay off? Will SQUADRON pay off? And that's the bet that we're making.
You are probably 98.5%. That's pretty good because most
Wait.
Well,
I am a perfectionist. What am I missing?
I know. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why. You're absolutely right. First of all, your answer is 100%.
Okay.
I just would put a different word in replace of bet, and I would really be talking about the gamble. What is the gamble of CIG to do Star Citizen in a live environment and be in this alpha state, particularly for the length of time that it has been there? What is the gamble? Are there any risks in this process that they're doing, the way they're doing it? Go ahead, what are you going to say?
I have to ask you to define or compare, contrast the definition between gamble and bet. What are the differences for you?
Well, gambling and betting can be the same thing, but betting, I'm trying to introduce the aspect of risk, right? That there's a decision being made here that has a pro and con to it. And whether in the end, like if I bet on something, obviously there's a pro and con sense of whether something's going to win, right? I'm just betting. But when I say, what are they gambling? I'm saying, what are all the factors that they're taking into deciding that this is the best way, or even is it the best way to produce Star Citizen, right? Because in the early days, like when you and I were around back in the day, when it was pre-alpha and alpha, nobody really threw any stuff up about it, right? When we said, the game's an alpha, it was, okay, it's an alpha, right? Maybe some people said, what is that? Or maybe they might have asked, what does that mean, right? But 12 years later, when you say it's an alpha, they're like, yeah, for 12 years? It's a different type of response, right?
And I blame Steam for putting out the pre-alpha, the pre-access early access thing for making everything cloudy and muddy and yeah,
Yeah.
all that. That I think that's become a huge part of what confuses people. But
Mhm.
I mean, for you, I'm glad you define because that's a nuanced answer and that's
Mhm.
good. I, I just took the title as literal for bet. So
Yeah.
I would not have gotten gamble from bet.
And you're not wrong with your answer. Not at all. I just want to extend it even further because what we're going to be doing today is looking at videos from not just within the community but outside of the community and how other people have assessed what it means to be an alpha. I don't know if you noticed this, fastcart, but the beginning video that we just showed, which was a beautiful video that's done by Thoya, it said I'm lost, right? And the question is, why did they pick that title? Was it just because it was a great song? Or does the title mean anything in relation to what we were seeing on the screen? You're seeing all this, like somebody said it was very beautifully cinematically done. It's got this great music. It's showing all these fabulous environments. And at the same time, there's a title that says, I'm lost. And I want to raise the question of whether or not that there are people who are participating in this project, this great experiment called Star Citizen, that might be feeling pretty lost, right? They've got this pretty thing that is kind of cool, but is also at the same time, you know, it's not matching up to what the expectations may be, right? What people want to see this game do, and especially when so much time has gone by, right? Let's give some shout outs real quick. Pops in Space, Senor Mukil, thank you all so much for those subs. We appreciate that. You're keeping us living and breathing over here at Soul Citizens with that. So thank you for those subs.
Now, I had to poke at Muko because he said every time I put the BMM in my backdrop, it get delayed another 6 months. Don't do that. Don't put that in the universe. Don't do that.
So yeah, that's what we're going to be examining today. So that first video, and even at the end of that video, did you see what he put at the very end? It's still an alpha, but it's an alpha.
It's still an alpha, right.
And so
Yeah.
I don't know, is that him saying that in the sense of, look at all this beauty,
That's a good question.
and this is just it's an alpha and look how great it looks, or it's an alpha and look at the potential, or it's an alpha and yeah, it looks good, but you know, I'd be really curious to see what the creator was thinking by using that statement in there, right? And then using the title of the song called Lost, you know, I'm lost, you know. I'm not trying to say what it is. I'm just curious.
Well, maybe because I'm jaded or I've been around too long. Like if this was put out in 2015, I would say maybe more to the positive.
Mhm.
But this was released that 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So I'm feeling that he may be putting a negative connotation on that.
Or is he just saying something? Right? Does it have to be negative if it's truthful? Right? And I'm just throwing these out. I'm just throwing them out.
Feeling the person.
Right.
I want to say they themselves are feeling. Yeah.
They may be feeling lost, or maybe again it's just the title of the song and that's how they felt. I don't know, but I think that if we take the visuals that we saw, the statement that was made at the end about and it's still an alpha, and then also the title of Lost, we're basing our theme today around this, right? About the state of the game. How do we feel about the state of the game? And, you know, that's what we're going to talk about today. That's going to be it. So we're going to show you guys some videos, some clips. These are going to be various content creators, some within the community, some outside of the community. And of course, as always, we're going to be looking at the chat to see what you guys have to say about the titles that we're picking. One of the things that we basically surround, if you look at the screen, is we bring up this issue of CryEngine, Lumberyard, and Star Engine. Now, I'm bringing those up because in the early days, for those of you who weren't around, there was a conversation, there were debates about CIG deciding to go with CryEngine. Do you remember that fastcart in the beginning that people were kind of questioning?
I mean, heck, people still have to debate today sometimes, but yeah, I don't think it ever went away.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially early back then, because a lot of people prefer the look of Unreal. Some people say it looks better.
Right.
But it's not just the way it looked; it how the code and everything interact within the engine itself that affect the project. So yeah.
I remember even people talking about Unity. I was going to bring up Unity, but then that would have been a whole nother length of time to talk about that. But you're right. Unreal 4 was out at the time, and we knew that Unreal 5 was coming. And there were people who were saying, "Well, why don't they wait Unreal's really good and it looks more realistic, and Unreal 5 is supposed to be the bomb. And people were looking at CryEngine as being an engine that was great in its time, but whether or not it was going to accomplish the things that, that Chris Roberts wanted to do, there were some people that had a lot of questions about it. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. Okay, we've got some videos.
I am looking up what is the date for CryEngine? When was the first CryEngine?
Ooh, that goes back to the Crysis stuff. I don't remember when that.
Right.
I don't know if that was the first
it up.
game, but I know Crysis ran under CryEngine.
Yeah, I'm looking it up on waiting for it to load.
Some of you trivia
Wikipedia.
folks out there, we know some of you all may know. Some of you all may have been playing some of the early CryEngine stuff. But
Initial release.
Mm-hmm.
Initial release May 2nd, 2002.
Yep. So we're talking 10 years old by the time they start doing Star Citizen. So
and I think Unreal does a better job of not patch release, but marketing their patches, because they say Unreal 2, Unreal 3, Unreal 4, Unreal 5. The only thing we know about CryEngine is just CryEngine. They don't put a number or anything behind it. So I think Unreal Epic Game really did a better job marketing.
Well, I think the other thing too is that it was tied to Epic Games, right? Because their engine got tied to a lot of games that they launched and published as well. So that also kind of kept it much more in the forefront than CryEngine did, So yeah, Mukul, that's what we were saying. Yeah, so Far Cry was where they started at. Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, let's get going. We got a lot of stuff to cover for you all, and we're gonna see what's going on. Over 20 years old now, and it's an antique show. Bluesy, it's not an antique show. It is not the software that it was back then. It is an entirely different software.
Old enough to drink. It's old enough to drink in the U.S.
Vintage. You must say vintage, Bluesy. It's vintage. He says antique.
Oh my God.
I love it. Yeah. UE is over 20 years old. I remember the original Unreal playing that. It goes back a long way. All right, let's jump in, because like I said, we've got a lot of stuff to cover here for you all today. So one of the things that we're going to look at here is this first thing called alpha male, right? A lot of times we hear the term alpha male, we think about this guy who's very powerful and strong and knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about. So I'm gonna show you two clips, Fastcart, and I want your reaction. I'm gonna do one, we'll talk about your reaction, and then we're gonna look at the second one and we talk about a reaction from that one. Okay. So here's the very first clip, and you guys check this out. This is a short on YouTube, and this is done by Asheville SC. Okay, so here we go.
$15,000 is how much you need to pay for this railgun in Star Citizen. Would you buy the ship?
Okay, so FC, I need to know, when you see that video, what is your initial reaction?
If I were to put it in one word, when I first saw that clip, that short, sorry, I would say the first word that popped into my mind was misinformed.
Okay,
and why? Because
he
said you're buying the gun, and he mentioned $15,000 for the gun.
No, he said for the ship. He said for the ship.
Except for the ship.
He said to fire the rail gun.
To fire the rail gun. Okay, so yeah. But everything will be available in game eventually. I think that's the point that a lot of people miss, willfully or accidentally. I mean, we can say until we blew the face that all these ships would be available in game eventually, but I don't know. People don't choose out there not to believe that, or think that. I don't know what people believe, but all these ships will be available in game. So you don't have to pay $15,000 for that ship. Matter of fact, you can pull together and get together with an org and eventually get the ship for your org eventually.
Okay, so all that information you just gave is a bundle of a lot of different things. Why do you think? Now, here's the funny thing: this person's name is Asheville SC. With the capital S and C, which might mean that they are a Star Citizen person. Maybe.
Okay.
Might mean South Carolina, but it's SC, right? So my question is, if you had to say where he got that information from, what do you, in the chat, if you all know why he said 15,000, Can anybody tell me why he said? I can tell you why he said it. Does anybody know why he said 15,000?
That's part of the what you call it, the package. The
Exactly.
Praetorian.
Yes. The only way to get it now is through the Praetorian packet, right?
Praetorian.
Okay. So it means that he's using current information, right? Because he could have just decided to pick the price for the Idris M, right? And said that, but he didn't. He went with the package number.
Griffin, I'm not trying to be nitpicky. I'm seeing the person's name is Polaris Captain, or is that something? It's not someone else.
Or maybe I picked it on the video. I thought it was Asheville SC. Is it Polaris Captain on that video?
Yeah, Polaris
on
Captain.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know why I got Asheville under the name under the thing. I might have the wrong name. If I do, we'll make a correction on it. So
Okay.
my question to you is this: when this type of information goes out, good, bad, indifferent?
It depends on how many subscribers, how many followers the person has behind them. If it had like, I'm picking a random number, not really random, but like, let's say the person has 50,000 subscribers. That's a lot of people receiving that information that may or may not be correct. If it's, a smaller YouTube, the outcome, or not the outcome, the misinformation, whether on purpose or accidental, will mitigate it somewhat. But yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, do you disagree?
My thing is, like, there's so many ways that information can go out now. It can go out because someone has followers. It can go out because people pay money and do all types of things to get their stuff seen, right? I've never seen this person before, but this popped up in my thread, right? So it's not like this is one of the people I follow or anything like that. I wonder when these things go out with that type of information, like you gave a whole bunch of other information that does not go out, right?
Right.
And
this is just a clip, so it'd be hard to put everything that I said in a 30-second clip. What did I go, like 90 seconds?
Right. Well, yeah. And again, the other thing is that people can go to the website, right? And the website doesn't even break down what you said, right? What the website does is it just shows the ship package, right? And
it's gotten better. I want to say before 2017, they had a list of all the packages, and it went all the way down to the Legatus.
Right.
And people come barking and hollering about you got to pay $25,000 for this thing.
Right. But still, even today, a $15,000 package ain't nothing to sneeze at, right?
That's
particularly
true.
And the way this is said, it's like
but you only see that if you get above concierge.
Exactly. And the other thing is that what information is being focused on here? The railgun. It has nothing to do with the big Idris ship that holds 80 people, right? The focus is about the railgun. So there's a lot of the marketing of this. And my point is that there's a lot here in the marketing that can give people wrong impressions, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the impression I got from this video might be that a single person had to pay $15,000 to fly and fire that ship.
Yep. Okay. All right. That's one. Let's take a look at a second video here and tell me what you think of this one.
How does a game that raises $1 billion in funding on Kickstarter end up still sucking balls? Star Citizen is the most funded media project to ever exist, raising over $600 million in 2 years. In comparison, GTA 5 only costed about $265 million to make. It promised an unlimited explorable universe, complex economies, space battles. Everyone who had a dollar was throwing it at this game, but now you barely hear anyone talk about it. What happened? Truth is, this game is a pipe dream. Look, on paper, this game sounds like it could be great. 12 years Star Citizen has been out, and I don't know
Okay. Give me your thoughts. Oops, sorry.
I-
There's still
I-
more to
I-
go.
I- I-
solidifying the core
Sorry, let me
gameplay.
go back. There's more to it. Sorry.
Star Citizen has been out. The game sounds like it could be great. 12 years Star Citizen has been out, and I don't know where that $1 billion went, but the game is far from complete. The devs kept chasing new ideas without solidifying the core gameplay, and this kept the project in perpetual development hell for years. They would add new content and updates, but the old content would still be broken as shit. The average person is lucky if they can even run this game if you don't have a NASA computer. At certain times this game was great, but it doesn't make up for the time it took for them to envision the ideas. Makes you wonder how much of that money they fucked off with.
Okay, there you go. All right. I know there's a lot there,
So
so just
many
give me a
things.
couple.
So
give,
many
give me,
things.
give me a couple. Give me a couple points. What you got?
$1 billion. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. He's not necessarily wrong. Crowdfunding is like 800 million, but if you kind of consider in the marketing from the investors and stuff like that, it could be $1 billion by now. I'm not sure it's reached that point. So he's probably, I mean, put it optimistically, he's trying to make sure his video is not out of date too soon. That's the optimistic way of saying it. The other way of saying it is he's wrong. It's not $1 billion yet. The other thing that popped in my mind, a NASA computer. I don't know if people notice NASA computers are not that great. The stuff that NASA has, I mean, depending on what area you look at, but NASA computers are not that great. I understand he's trying to say you need a big rig to play it, and not necessarily wrong, especially early on. But I think the development of the game is trying to make it kind of gentler piece of software that mid-range computers can.
But see, you're telling me stuff that you know. I want you to tell me what is your impressions from what he's saying about this.
He's saying what he's saying that you need a big supercomputer to run a computer, and it's $1 billion, and the game is not out.
Okay. Hey, shout out to the People's Radio, TPR. Thank you for the follow, TPR. You all follow TPR, the People's Radio. Oblevsky.
I'll give them a shout out.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Any other points that you saw in here in particular? He mentioned about the $1 billion, length of time. What else? You want me
so
to?
many.
Do I need to? I know there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, go ahead and give me your thoughts, please.
Well, there's a lot here. I'm going to play it again.
How does a game that raises $1 billion in funding on Kickstarter end up still sucking balls? Star Citizen.
Okay, so did they raise $1 billion on Kickstarter? No, they did not.
No.
Okay. And I think that there may be good intention and when people are trying to put together videos like this, but there's so much inaccuracy. I don't know if the inaccuracy is because it's what they've heard or if they didn't do their research in a good way. I'm not denying anything about the amount of money spent, but the fact that we tell people that they raised $1 billion on Kickstarter is not true. It's not the case.
Is the most funded media project to ever exist, raising over $600 million in 2 years. In comparison,
raising over $600 million in 2 years. Not true.
No, that's not true.
Not true.
GTA 5 only costed about $265 million to make.
GTA 5 cost $265 million to make. I don't know what their marketing costs were, but I think they were probably closer to $300 million. But then again, it's an entirely different game. And it's also a single game versus Star Citizen and Squadron, which are 2 games. But
yeah, 2 games. Thank you. I forgot about that. I didn't forget about that, but it didn't occur to me to mention that.
Yeah, and I'm just saying it's more because it's if that information is put in there, it might give a different level of context, but because it's not, the assumption is that it's on one game.
It promised an unlimited explorable universe, complex economies, space battles. Everyone who had a dollar was throwing it at this game. But now you barely hear anyone talk about it. What happened? Truth is, this game is a pipe dream. Look, on
the game is a pipe dream. There are people who believe that. From the very beginning, people felt that the game was, I think the term that we used to do, they didn't say pipe dream, they said it was overly ambitious. Or that it would be...
That's the kind of way, the diplomatic way of saying it.
Yeah.
The thing I want to put everyone threw $1 at it. I don't think that's, I think that's a
everybody threw hundreds of dollars at it.
Yeah, right. No. My nitpick is the word everybody. Many people.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't.
Quite a few
right.
people Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the number of accounts, it's like 5 million. So I don't consider that everybody, but
Yeah.
I mean, it is a lot of people.
Yeah.
I would prefer he would use a different term. Put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
On paper, this game sounds like it could be great. 12 years Star Citizen has been out, and I don't know where that $1 billion went, but the game is
12 years and don't know where the money went. And we can look at financials and see where money is gone. So
only up to 2 years ago. I don't know if the
no. I'm saying over the years they've released financials over the years is what I'm saying. So again, my problem isn't criticism. My problem is bad information. Right.
Bad information. Okay.
If they were to go, if he had said, you know, every few years they release, you know, their financials, but you know, we're not seeing the results of all the money spent. I could take that, right? But there's things being implied when we say we don't know where the money went, right? We're saying some things that lend themselves toward, and at the very end, he even infers the fact that maybe they pissed off the money doing wrong things with the money, right?
Now, and I could be double advocate and say, but Griffin, you can only put so much information in a 30-second or 90-second clip or short.
That, and I would agree, but I would say the angel side to that is put the right information in. That's all.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't criticize. I'm saying don't put bad information in. You know,
it's far from complete. The devs kept chasing new ideas without.
True. The devs were chasing ideas. If he said Chris Roberts was chasing ideas, I might say okay. But the devs do what their bosses tell them to do. So I don't know about that statement, you know.
I mean, technically you could say Chris Roberts, Aaron Roberts, the people in the high up are developers too. So, and I'll give them leeway on that one.
Yeah, but that's not what people are going to say when they say the devs.
That's not what you people. That's true.
They make a broad statement. It's a broad across the board statement, right?
Core gameplay, and this kept the project in perpetual development hell for years. They would add new content and updates, but the old content would still be broken as shit. The average person is lucky if they can even run this game if you don't have a NASA computer. At certain times this game was great, but it doesn't make up for the time it took for them to envision the ideas. Makes you wonder how much of that money they fucked off with.
Okay, so that last statement makes you wonder. What you do is you put placing a question of doubt in, right?
Right.
Without evidence. And so, you know, again, I'm not against criticism. You know, I'm not against even people questioning and wondering. But when these type of things are going out from people, and like I said, this popped up in my feed. I didn't go looking for this. And I'm a person who backs the game. What does that say for people who are curious about the game and they get this type of stuff, right? So again, with us being in this broken state, this alpha state, you know, does that state, because so much time has passed and because things aren't working or have not been working well, does that also fuel these type of videos, right? Where people put this stuff out because all they see is a broken mess. They may not know the details, right? They don't know that you have to be concierge. What they do know is that the game isn't working, or they've heard that the game isn't working, right? Or they assume that the game isn't working because it hasn't been released, you know? And I just wonder, is alpha... does that help perpetuate it? You know, we're not in beta yet. You know, maybe if we were in beta, there wouldn't be so much heat, you know?
No. If it was beta, I think there would be, maybe I'm jaded, like I said before, but if it was beta, I think it would get even more heat because it depends on the state of the game.
No. If I say beta, I'm talking about the game is playable. I'm not talking about like it is now in beta. I'm saying if it was in a beta state, maybe we wouldn't have, you know, the certain thoughts that people have about the game at this point.
There's always going to be negative videos like this because, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's human nature. Negative videos and negative commercials. You see every election cycle. That's why I get political. But you know, negative makes more impact than positive. Unfortunately, that's human nature. Unfortunately.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. We're going to go to another video now, and this one is going to be dealing with CryEngine. 10#42. Some of y'all may have seen these videos. 10#42 did a thing that was right. Basically, did Chris Roberts make the right choice when he chose CryEngine for Star Citizen all the way back in 2010? And for those of you guys who don't know, you know, we'll talk about 2012 a lot, but 2010 is when Chris started working on getting his presentation ready before 2012 when they made the announcement. Okay, so he was actually working on it 2 years earlier than that. Okay. Who is that? Scuba Steve. Hey, Scuba Steve, how are you?
Thank you for the raid.
Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. We appreciate you being here. We are the Soul Citizens, and we're doing a show today called The Alphabet. We're wondering if the gamble of being in Alpha is a good thing for Star Citizen and Cloud Imperium Games to be in some 12, 13 years later. What is the state of the game? We're talking about that today, okay? All right, so we're going to look at 10 Pound 42's video. Scuba Steve, hope you had a great stream. Thank you as always. Appreciate you. Always been out there in the community putting out good stuff. Let's take a look at this next video we got.
Sometime around 2010, Chris Roberts made the fateful decision to start developing a small demo using the CryEngine. Star Citizen was born, but for many years, choosing to go with Crytek's engine looked like it might have been a huge mistake. Other engines came out with impressive tech, CRG struggled to get the game running well, there was a switch to a fork of the engine called Lumberyard, and Crytek ended up suing CRG. It's been a complicated 15 years. Now, over those many years, many people have asked, why doesn't CRG switch to something like Unreal Engine 5? This video will show why that was never going to happen and why CR was actually right to choose the CryEngine all along. We're going to cover why CRG has been able to make this work, why Epic's Unreal Engine wouldn't work, and what CRG needs to do to make this the best game engine in the whole industry. First, let's go on a short journey through the history of what we now call the Star Engine. This is actually best explained by Sean Tracy, who worked for Crytek and was part of a small team of people that helped Chris Roberts put together that initial demo. Here's a clip of him explaining how the project started.
Well, it was really interesting. Back in 2010, I think it was, Chris came into my office with Ortwin, and my office being the GDC CryEngine booth. And we started talking about how to do a space game on the CryEngine. And this was back in 2010. And a lot of people, and hell, a lot of people still even now are like, well, CryEngine, you can't do that. I don't know how you'd ever do such large environments, how you'd ever carry around so many ships, because, it was mostly FPS engine. Chris being, how he is, he wanted kind of some proof, basically. So we gave him the SDK. He started building up the Hornet. So that was the very first ship that he sort of built up. He implemented all these thrusters and things like this. And this was after our first little demo. Then we met up, I think it was about 6 months later, or it might even been an entire year later. And he came in with an implementation of his own ship, right? Flying around pretty much. He had asked us how to do a space environment. So showed him how to get rid of all the terrain, how you can just be flying around, things like this. So he came in, and we were super impressed with the fact that he did this himself. So then what I did, I recruited a guy named Hannes Apfel, who now works for us as well. He's the cinematics director, as well as Paul Reindel. And we were all still at Crytek at the time. And what I had said to them was like, listen, we really want to close this license. This will be an amazing game to have on the CryEngine. So what we did was put together that very first crowdfunding video that you guys saw.
The demo proved to be a huge draw. Millions and millions and millions of dollars were raised, but even early on in the project, CRG realized that it would take some significant changes to the engine in order to realize the game's potential. Here is Chris Roberts speaking in 2014.
So yeah, and I'm very satisfied with CryEngine so far. It's a very powerful engine. I think it's one of, if not the best looking engine out there for the kind of look and style that I want, which is a sort of more photorealistic look. I mean, obviously we have some challenges because we're using the engine for something that it wasn't primarily built for, i.e. we're having big space, open, like space. We got vehicles that fly at fast speeds over long distances, whereas CryEngine was built for sort of first person on foot combat. So generally their play areas are sort of, 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers or 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers. Ours will be millions of kilometers across. So we have to do modifications to the engine to enable that. But, most of the things I think that I want to get done and getting done. I mean, there is some longer term stuff I want to do where we're going to go seamlessly from, say, space down to the planet. This is very long term, not the initial release. But we're pretty sure that we'll be able to get that worked into the framework of the engine. I mean, my guess is that down the road, as we're up and running, as we continue to add more content, the engine itself will be so heavily modified that it won't really resemble the base engine it came from, because we've got such specific needs for what we're doing. But yeah, it's a great engine. We're really happy. We really love the look of it.
His prediction that the engine would need to be unrecognizable really from the base version of CryEngine was actually spot on. Over the course of development, CIG has taken on massive tech projects to attempt to bend the CryEngine to its needs. The conversion to 64-bit precision, the procedural planet tech, object container streaming, persistence, and just at the end of 2024, server meshing finally arrived. The company has taken a very long time to make this game, and one of the key reasons for that is that they've done huge amounts of work to the engine. Along the way, CIG announced that they had moved over to Lumberyard at the end of 2016. Now, this sounds like a drastic move, but actually the Lumberyard engine was a forked version of CryEngine licensed by Amazon, and this move seems to have been mostly about allowing CIG to tap into Amazon's AWS platform. Then, at the end of 2017, Crytek sued. Now, at the time, this all felt a bit worrying. I'm sure it's not what Chris Roberts and the team wanted, and it caused a certain amount of stress in the community, but in the end, it kind of all just fizzled out and CIG just carried on. So, the choice to go with CryEngine hasn't exactly been straightforward, and you might be tempted to think that in the end it's caused more hassle than it was worth. But when you fast forward to today, the alternative options don't look that great. The industry standard engine that so many game studios use has gone through a bit of a fall from grace. Unreal Engine has been the go-to engine for game developers for a while now. It's an off-the-shelf solution that allows game studios to focus on making a game rather than building their own engine. Epic develops it, adds the shiny new features, and you as the developer, you just get to use it. It sounds great. But over the last few years, the feeling towards Unreal has started to shift. It used to be, wow, look at Nanite and Lumen. Look at how advanced this engine is. But now you're more likely to hear people complaining about yet another Unreal Engine game with stuttering issues. Jedi Survivor, the Star Wars game, was a notable example of this. Developed on Unreal Engine 4, at launch it suffered with a bunch of issues, and some of those issues still haven't been completely fixed. And unfortunately, some of these issues just carry over into Unreal 5 engine games. There are plenty of examples of just games that don't perform very well on Unreal Engine. The reasons Star Citizen could never swap over to UE5 are best summed up by the thoughts of the studio director for another CryEngine-based game, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. KCD 2 has been really well received and by most accounts performs really well. And the co-founder of Warhorse Studios had some pretty blunt things to say about Unreal Engine 5 about a year ago. Here's a section from a Windows Central article. In an interview from 11 months ago, the co-founder of Warhorse Studios, Daniel Vivara, was asked why he chose CryEngine to power Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 versus something like Unreal Engine. At the time, nothing else could handle it like this, and to be fair, Unreal couldn't run it even today, Daniel said in February 2024. He continued, I talk with the guys who are making The Witcher, or from studios that are just trying to make some open world games on Unreal because there aren't really any open world games on Unreal. Assassin's Creed, everything like that is on their own engine. CD Projekt Red just switched to Unreal, even though, in my opinion, they had a really good proprietary engine. I talked to someone whose name I obviously can't say and said to him, so how about Unreal? Great, we already have pieces done like some landscapes. And I said, well, what about the open world? Not yet. When did they announce it? A year or two ago, and it still doesn't work. UE5 just doesn't seem to be that well suited to large open world games in its current state, and never mind a seamless galaxy simulator like Star Citizen. You might say, well, surely some game developers can fix some of these issues. That's their job, isn't it? And the answer is probably more complicated than we've really got time for here, but all game devs are not equal. Most game studios don't have the skills, knowledge, or the time to do major engine refactors for UE5. One of the key reasons that a studio will choose Epic's engine is because Epic is supposed to look after all the hard stuff. Epic's engineers, the people who built the engine, are supposed to fix major performance issues. Things like shader compilation or traversal stutter, they're just not problems that most game studios want to or can fix. So no, Unreal Engine 5 is not the answer for Star Citizen. Most of the work that CIG has done transforming the CryEngine would just have to be done all over again to Epic's engine. CIG's version of the CryEngine can now do so many things that UE5 can't. To abandon Star Engine now would be genuinely insane. But if fixing Unreal Engine is too much for your average game studio, how did CIG manage to utterly transform the CryEngine? There are three main answers to this. One, we, the community, gave them loads and loads of money. Two, they've been given so much time, more than a decade. And three, the most important, they hired a bunch of Crytek devs with years and years of experience in the CryEngine. You could argue that if Crytek had been able to pay their staff properly, Star Citizen might be nowhere near as successful as it is now. When CIG started up back in 2011, 2012, they had the same issues that other studios have with Unreal Engine now. They didn't make the engine, and their understanding of how it worked and how to modify it would have been seriously limited. But what if you can solve that by hiring a load of people who have worked with the engine for years and some who are heavily involved in the architecture of it? Well, that's effectively what happened. Here's Sean Tracy again explaining how he came to work at CIG.
I mean, it's pretty public, but Crytek had some financial issues, so this was kind of an easy move. And there was a lot of different licensees that were talking to a few of us about moving over to them. And honestly, I'd always wanted to work on. Star Citizen.
Crytek, over the last 10 or so years, has been on the brink financially. At various points, there have been reports of staff not being paid, and understandably, that has led to some developers leaving. And CIG picked up many of them. Crytek has a studio in Frankfurt, and guess where CIG happened to base their German office? Yes, it's Frankfurt. CIG managed to very effectively recruit some absolute CryEngine wizards. And if you go back through the Star Citizen YouTube channel, there are countless examples of devs who came over from Crytek. This is pretty much the secret sauce behind why CIG has been able to push the engine so far. People who would have had years and years working the CryEngine have been able to slowly refactor it into the Star engine. Without these key hires from Crytek, there's no real way that the scope and scale of the game would have expanded so much, and therefore CIG wouldn't have been able to crowdfund nearly $800 million. And the fact that the community threw money at the game definitely helped. Game studios don't normally get the opportunity to go crazy like CIG has done. In the early days, it felt like every single good idea ended up being enveloped into the project. Feature creep was the name of the game, and there have been obvious negatives to this approach. But from the engine side, the lack of financial pressure to pump out a finished game has just allowed the devs to produce an engine like nothing else out there. And that money has then allowed for time. Having no publisher for SC has allowed CIG to take their sweet time. Things like server meshing that took many years longer than we expected would probably have been cancelled at other game studios for a lesser implementation, but not CIG. They just kept going until they got it working. And again, some people might have preferred a scaled down version of Star Citizen that maybe would have released in like 2018, but that's just not what's happened. Unlimited money and unlimited time combined with very talented and experienced CryEngine devs have taken us way past what I was expecting when I first batched the project in 2013. But what is the future of the Star engine? What do they still need to add? Can an engine whose birth was over 2 decades ago compete with modern engines? If CIG stopped developing the engine right now, well, it wouldn't be great. Aside from major performance problems, which we'll talk about in a moment, there are still key elements missing from a modern game engine. Ray tracing, whether you love it or hate it, is a requirement for AAA games these days. CIG has shown off progress of its ray trace global illumination over the last couple of years. It looks good, and I'm expecting that will probably drop with Squadron 42 and then make its way into the persistent universe sometime later. Last we heard, you will be able to play with a software version of their global illumination system. So unlike some recent games, you won't be forced to play with ray tracing or required to have RT hardware in your GPU, but we'll see. Frame generation is another hot topic. Nvidia has gone all in on using frame gen as a marketing tool, promising giant frame rates with modest hardware, fake frames as many are calling them. Personally, in certain cases, I think it can be a very useful technology. Again, I would expect that to be an option that arrives with Squadron 42. And then we've got the graphics rendering. DX11 has been used from the start of the project, the base version of CryEngine, that's what it used, but CIG has been very slowly rolling out Vulkan. Lots of reasons why they've done this, but it's not really the time to go into them here. They've not finished this task yet. We're still waiting for the version of Vulkan with multi-threaded rendering, but it is in progress. And then there is the big one, the engine development that could take the Star engine to a completely different level, dynamic server meshing. The current version of static server meshing that we have in the live game consists of one shard made up of 10 servers with 600 players. Those 10 servers look after different regions of the game, certain planets, moons, empty space. But the issue with this approach is that you can have certain servers with higher proportion of players and then others with sometimes maybe less than 10 players on them. And therefore, server tick rate can vary pretty massively between different regions of the game. The server for Lawville, for example, often has way more players on it than the server looking after Checkmate Station in Pyro, in my experience. Dynamic meshing aims to fix this by allowing servers to dynamically resize as needed. So if, in my example, Checkmate Station only has 15 players on it, that server's influence could either grow to look after more of Pyro, or maybe just be taken over completely by another server. More servers could spin up in Stanton to look after the higher player count there, and if lots of players decide to jump to Pyro, well, then the servers would dynamically change to the best configuration. That's the theory behind it, at least, but the key point is that rather than some devs at CRG having to work out all the load and balancing for the server meshing, the system should be able to scale and morph on its own. Who knows how far away this is? My prediction is it's probably a while away, but this is what should, in theory, allow for massive player counts. Apart from those big changes to the engine, CRG has also laid out their plans for Planet Tech. At last year's CitizenCon, things look like they're going to take another step forward. People sometimes worry about Star Citizen's graphics and maybe they won't hold up, the engine's so old, but Chris Roberts is all about fidelity and immersion, those amazing words, and I really don't think we need to worry about the game's graphics in any way. Compare that first early demo to what we have in game now and it's complete night and day. I think we can trust the graphics department and the artists. They've done a very good job so far. The last major thing that CRG needs to focus on to truly have a next-gen engine is performance. It's no good having all this cool tech, but the frame rate is on the floor. But unfortunately, that has been the story so far. I suppose in some ways it's not surprising that such an ambitious game would be so demanding, but currently you need absolute top-end hardware to get past 60 FPS in the most brutal parts of the game. But CRG's plan to optimize the game in 2025 does seem to be paying off. This channel is all about Star Citizen performance, and over the last few patches, things are gradually getting better in the cities. But the company simply has to keep going. The game is still super tough to run on mid-range hardware. I again think that Star Citizen's performance fate is tied to Squadron 42. I know that some of the optimization work that CRG did for CitizenCon, the playthrough of Squadron, was planned to make its way over into the MMO, and I think that is what we're kind of relying on this year. As CRG optimize their single player game, the hope is that the work comes over to the multiplayer game. By the end of 2025, we should have a much better idea of how performance is going to look going forward. So, CRG are not quite there yet, but the Star engine is shaping up to be a bit of a masterpiece in my opinion. Thanks to clever hiring strategy and plenty of money and time, Chris Roberts' choice to go with the CryEngine all those years ago is now looking like it's going to pay off. A huge congratulations must go to all the devs at CRG over the years who have worked on the engine and transformed it from an engine that was designed for FPS maps into something more advanced than basically any other engine. An impressive engine, though, doesn't guarantee a good game. The next big challenge for CRG is to turn Star Citizen into a good game, but I think it's safe to leave the request to switch to UE5 firmly in the past.
Alrighty, £10.42, great video. Fastcart, after you've watching that, what are your thoughts about, do you think this whole thing about why he went with CryEngine versus Unreal has kind of helped a little bit with folks' understanding?
I wish it was a shorter videos because it'd be more easy for people who are just coming into the game to process it. I mean, he did a great job. He did a great job. But some people have a shorter attention span. So he did a thorough job of explaining, and I appreciate that. Yeah. I just think it might be more than some people are willing to watch to learn the differences and the reason.
Yeah.
The title of the video was Chris Roberts was right. I'm wondering if I would get a T-shirt that said Chris Roberts is right, how much hate do you think I'd get? That would just, if I started wearing that around.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing that stood out to me about the whole weight tracing thing, I have a 2080 Super, so it's barely RTX capable. Not barely, but it has some capability. I've been in the game recently for the Demo Valley, and I noticed an improvement. It looked, some of the stuff looked amazing. In fact, and I've seen people who stream with the new effect. The lighting and everything is on point. It looks amazing. It's just unfortunate that it's taken so long for them to get to reach this stage.
Yeah. I like the fact that for people who were not around back in the early days, where he went back and showed the clips that we're looking at right now from ATV and from RTV.
Right.
And so a lot of people didn't see these videos back in the day, and understanding that people like Sean Tracy and many others came out of Crytek, and that was also a big bonus for them when it came to modifying the engine. I think it was The Prisoner. Was it The Prisoner earlier? Wrote out a really nice long piece about Chris Roberts' statements about, using Lumberyard and the work that they had done in CryEngine. But that Star engine is its own animal now. Not, it's not CryEngine anymore. What are you gonna say?
Yeah, and I don't know what you're talking about response, but I alluded to the fact that we may be getting to the article that the prisoner is referring to. So yeah, that's coming up.
Yeah.
But yes, you're exactly right. I really like this video because, I mean, I've heard these reasons before, but seeing them all in one place in such a concise manner helps a lot.
Yeah.
So it refreshed my memory, so to speak, as to why they moving to Unreal Engine, especially at this late stage, is a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah. There's another point that comes up every once in a while in relation to the thing about feature creep. And you hear this thing about feature creep, and I've said this before on the show, and I could be wrong, folks, so don't think Griff has any super secret information, but I think it's just more of a reading the tea leaves. Some of you all know that Star Citizen, in the beginning we heard this thing of, there would be 100 systems on the launch, and what you didn't hear was how many landing zones there were going to be on the launch. And if I'm remembering correctly, Fastcart, it was less than 100 that we were going to be able to have.
Less than 100 landing zones.
It was like 90, something like that.
I mean, not every system is going to have a landing zone, if I recall correctly. And it was Soul would have 3, Terra would have 2 or 3, 1 or 2.
Right.
And we didn't even know about Casper at the time.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. So those other systems would have been, and I'm not throwing any shade, I'm just giving us an example of what we're talking about, would have been like kind of how Starfield was doing it, where you would pick a landing zone. And in fact, our early presentations, remember the one with the Connie, that's what we saw happen. They flew to the planet and then they just went to a landing zone. There was no landing.
Right. And it was on rails, per se,
right.
Yeah.
And Chris Roberts said on this section we were just looking at, he said specifically that the idea of landing your own ship from space anywhere on a planet would be coming years later. That was not going to be the game, that we would get to that later. But as we know, that feature or that ability did pop up much sooner. And I've said this before. The thing that I was talking about that I've said before is the fact that had to dramatically change what we were going to be able to do in the game now. Stuff that we thought we couldn't do later. I think when we had CitizenCon last year, I think Richard Tyra got up and said there's over, like he said, like 4,000 POIs in the game. It was some crazy amount of...
quite a few.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Where before it was only supposed to be 90 something. So, the people focused on the 100 systems things, but it was less than 100 places you could go back then. Now there's going to be thousands of places that you can go, which was not the original game plan.
And that's all thanks to Procedural Planet and V2 and well, I don't want to say V2, but whatever version of V2 plant tech that they'll have at launch. So I mean, when Procedural Planet became a feature, that was I hate to use the term, but game changer
Yeah.
in many respects because they were going to do it that way. I mean, they say no, hey, it'll be much more immersive, realistic, better if we use this system. And
Yeah.
I don't know how many months, years that added to the project, but I think people are happy that CIG has done it.
Yeah.
One thing about the video
let me say this real quick because there's a conversation going on about Lumberyard. I want to be really clear about what Lumberyard is. Guys, these were situations where they took out licenses to take CryEngine and morph it into something else. Everything is still based off the CryEngine engine, okay? And so Amazon did the same thing. They basically, that's what, when you get into what the lawsuit was about, that's where there was a lot of confusion that came up about it because CryEngine was saying, well, you know, when you guys started using Lumberyard, you shifted from using the CryEngine brand and saying it's Lumberyard, but Lumberyard has a license with us, which is actually CryEngine. It was this really weird loop with how CryEngine was being recognized as a part of the game. And also, there was this idea that CryEngine was going to be the main name used when it came to Squadron 42. And CIG came up with their variation of it, which was Star Engine. So, and it was mentioned in this video that their partnership with Amazon had to be able to get in with using the AWS system with Amazon, the whole idea of distribution, using their servers. There's a whole lot to it than just the engine that's tied to this whole project. You know, there's a lot to it.
What I was going to mention, 10 pound 42, mentioned about the lawsuit. And he mentioned how it was a stressful time to be a backer back then, and I just took me back. I was like, oh boy, because I don't want to say we were on pins and needles, but I was kind of nervous. So a lot of us were kind of nervous because we didn't know, like if CIG loses the lawsuit, what did that do with the crowdfunding money? Would that be used to pay off some of the lawsuit, or how would that work? But
I wasn't worried about development money. I mean, development money is dedicated toward that. I think that I know that there were people who were just confused about the process. You know, to your point, you know, you figure if CryEngine is the engine that things are being built on, and then that company is, you know, filing a lawsuit against them. What does that mean? Does that mean that Lumberyard doesn't get used? We're forced to stay with the original CryEngine. I mean, there was a whole lot. I didn't worry about it. I just figured it'll be one of those things where the lawyers will deal with it. Plus, there were financial issues that were going on with CryEngine, which I felt a lot of it had to do with.
And that's what I was going to jump to, because I was worried about, depending on how much, if CIG lost and Crytek won, how much money would that go to? Because I would assume Crytek would go to ask for a lot of money because they were in financial dire straits at the time. So it was a lot of worry during those days.
Well, I wasn't worried. You were worried. I wasn't worried. I figured.
I'm not a lawyer,
but I'm only saying that because God, what's the man's name? Ortwin. Their legal team is a pretty savvy legal team, and I'm sure they examined every aspect of that. I'm sure even Amazon's lawyers examined every aspect of that deal. That's just not it's not like you just go in and flip the switch and change your mind and say, "Oh, we're just going to switch over." You know what I'm saying? So my thing was that I know that they've done their homework on doing this. You know, I just didn't think CryEngine was going to have too much of a.
Well, and I knew Ortwin is a lawyer, but I didn't know about his reputation. I don't know how good he was, how good he is.
Well, I'm not saying that Ortwin's doing it. I'm saying that Ortwin, as an attorney, I'm sure made sure that their attorneys, CIG's attorneys, had looked into this, and Amazon's attorneys had looked into this deal in a big way. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead. And you know what? We're on our break time. We have hit that mark. We're going to take our 1 minute break real quick, and we're going to jump back in. I see you guys are saying a lot in the chat, a lot of good stuff going in there. But just give us a moment to do this 1 minute commercial, and then we will be back, and we're going to continue with our conversation. So stick around. Appreciate you being here today. Is the commercial running? I don't think the button for commercials is running. I'm going to have to use this other button. Hold on 1 second.
It's delayed. It takes a bit.
No, I'm using a different button. There it goes. Button. There it is. Yep. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, Fastcart and I. We're happy to have you, right, Fastcart? We're happy to have you guys here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we hope that you guys are enjoying the conversation that we're having, maybe learning a little something, or maybe just getting some cobwebs off of the memories of all the things that we've gone through to get us into the alpha state that we are still in after many years. But hopefully it'll give you some good answers and some. If you got questions, definitely put them in the chat. We'd love to see what you guys think about this because it's a lot to cover. A lot of history here, right, FC, over the years.
Oh, boy.
A lot of history. Next week, we're going to be doing a show. Go ahead.
We're going to say, Griffin, you did a great job putting this show together. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you're here with me to help me do it because I need your help. Next week, we're going to be doing a show called Formation, talking about fleet formations and things like that with all the ships that have come out. So hopefully you guys will join us for that next week. So thank you again for subscribing and supporting us. Well, we are back. We are back. Hope you guys are still here with us and that you're enjoying our show today. We're going to go on to our next video. We just watched this thing on Why CryEngine. Fastcart, I ran across the video that just came out not too long ago, right?
Right.
By Mustafa Hussein. And this is what he says about this video. Mustafa says, "This is the result of an art test that I've done for CIG. It took me 100 hours of work, 3 weeks, including the video showcase and the presentation. All of what was a year ago when I wanted to work for a AAA studio. CIG was the first one I applied to in my first job in the industry there. All that work was made utilizing CIG's workflow, including tiling materials, mesh decals, weighted normals, and trim sheets. This is an example, folks. We're going to put the link in for you because I know it's kind of small on your screen when we show it to you. But we're going to put the link in. Fastcart did it. And this is actually showing assets from Star Citizen if they were being done in Unreal Engine 5. So check this out. Alrighty. FC, what do you think? How does that look to you?
Interesting. I don't think it'll be worth it to convert it at this point in stage.
I didn't ask you about converting.
No, but
I'm
it
just
looks
asking
good.
you, how does it look? It looks good, doesn't it? I mean, that's what my point is. I mean, we've talked about in 10#42 did a really good explanation explaining, yeah, it looks good, but there are technical reasons, especially in an MMO environment, that it might be very difficult to use Unreal. But it is, you can understand when people see this. I mean, this is just a scene, right? This doesn't have all the things that you need to make it work, but it's a scene that we're looking at, and it looks pretty good.
Now, earlier in the show, in chat, New Soul and Pop were saying that they couldn't put the character in Unreal, and because of the limitations of the engine. So a lot of stuff will look good, but may or may not be buggy, may or may not work, depending on how they implement it.
Yeah. But, you know, my point is the fact that, you know, sometimes people will see things like this, right? And the assumption is that, oh, there it is, they can do it. But there are technical limitations that prevent, you know, it's kind of like watching a cinematic. You know what I mean? A cinematic can look great, but when you want to do it in engine, can you really pull it off? And even though this is in Unreal's engine, there's a lot more to Star Citizen than just making a room, right? Especially when you're talking about an MMO environment. Now, I think one of the points he also mentioned was that in single player spaces, it's maybe a little bit more easier to do Unreal Engine, which is another factor, right? So now people want to argue about whether or not Squadron 42 should have been in Unreal. That may
Oh
be
my
a different
gosh.
argument.
Oh.
No, I'm just saying that might be. I'm just saying that might be a different engine.
No, I
we
know,
can't-
but
we can't-
I'm
but-
just
but-
imagining
yeah,
the
but-
headache.
Yeah, but my point is we can't have Squadron in Unreal and have the persistent universe in CryEngine. You know what I mean? They'd have
I
to
agree.
both be in the same. Otherwise, you're dealing with totally different design and
I mean,
assets to do that.
you're
You know?
literally making 2 different games with very little crossover.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
assume.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's part of our thing, right? Was always they build things out for Squadron and then put them in the persistent universe. You would not be able to do that if they had done 2 different engines. That would have just been a real problem. Okay, well, we just wanted to show you guys that because we're not throwing shade on Unreal Engine, or at least hopefully we're not.
Yeah,
We're
not at all.
We're just talking about it is a beautiful engine and it looks really good. I would say these are very comparable, and there's some shots in here that I almost have to look at and say, that's a little cleaner than it is, and whatever. But that's me really being really eyeballing it microscopically, you know?
Right.
But in general, Unreal Engine looks good in the Star Citizen universe. It really does. Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, like Chris Chavez has a certain ideal for how Star Citizen and Star Citizen universe diverse should look.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I mean, 'cause there's a certain graininess with Star Citizen and stuff
Mhm.
like that. I'm not sure how Unreal would handle that. If it's possible.
Yeah. Again, my thing is just showing comparableness, right? I prefer, and Chris used the word photorealistic when he did his earlier video. I like, how can I say this? There's photorealistic, which a lot of the demos and things that we've seen from Unreal Engine that look really good. I mean, it looked like as if it's like video. It doesn't look like it's, animated or a game. Then there's stylized work. And to me, Star Citizen has a bit of photorealism, but it's also stylized. It has its own look to it, which I like. I don't necessarily want Star Citizen to look photorealistic. There are certain games, I watch, when I look at people do stuff with Cyberpunk and see some of the mods, oh my God, it looks amazing. It looks like I'm watching.
Oh my God, yes, I know.
It's
Too
amazing.
Much. Too much.
but do I want Star Citizen to look that way? I don't know. And then I worry about what is the resource cost to run an MMO like that. Like a single player game, yeah, but an MMO, we struggle now trying to run it within the CryEngine. It just seems like it would just be a lot to introduce. So
For me, I like the way the ships look in Star Engine, in Star Citizen. I like the way the ships look. The people look okay to me too. Yes, if you were to dial in more photorealism for the people, I think it'd be too much uncanny valley for me personally.
It could be, yeah. Well, it's interesting. And again, this is just like I said, we didn't want to talk about, we're trying to show you what these engines look like. And I wish we had shown Crysis in the beginning, because for people who may have played Crysis, people used to swear about Crysis back in fact, Crysis, when they did the remastering of Crysis, that was burning people's computers up, because it's a really powerful, it's a very demanding program, and a lot of computers, even high-end computers, had problems with it. Yeah, people had problems running Crysis, which is really interesting, But it is what it is. Let's go ahead and take a look at this next vid. This next one is actually a video that was done by Board Gamer. We're going to put a link in for the article that Board Gamer is referencing here. But it was a long article, and I just we couldn't break down this thing. So as you guys know, Board Gamer likes to read and tell you what he read. So if there's anybody who's going to go through this fairly thoroughly but quickly, we're going to play Board's video. And you guys can see what the conversation was in regard to Lumberyard. So let's take a quick look at that video.
Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. There was recently an interview that Digital Trends did with Cloud Imperium COO Carl Jones, focusing on the Lumberyard engine and some Star Citizen features. This video is an overview of that interview. Amazon Lumberyard is the new kid on the block when it comes to game engines, and there are lots of choices that you could go engine-wise, as well as the Unreal Engine, Unity, CryEngine, and more to consider. Lumberyard, however, offers some attractive features. Amazon's web services, AWS, a scalable global infrastructure, infrastructure of servers and tools for game servers and deployment. The engine is royalty-free, but it's also built upon the CryEngine originally too. For Star Citizen, that was also built upon an extremely similar version of the CryEngine that Lumberyard uses, a switch, or in this case more of a refactor to the Lumberyard engine, would not only allow for new features for Star Citizen's engine, but also could actually save Star Citizen money in the longer term from licensing. The transition to Lumberyard. So the transition to Lumberyard was extremely quick and easy. It was only a few days' work to transfer their custom Star Citizen engine over to Lumberyard. They stripped down their Star Citizen CryEngine thing, which is commonly termed the Star Engine, and Lumberyard to their matching components, and then added the customization to the common Lumberyard core. The switch to Lumberyard engine did not cause any further delays to the project. Some of its features may even save time and give extra options, compared to having to create some of these options and some of these extras from scratch as well. It's a very good, smart choice. There is not much of an overlap with custom work and the new Lumberyard features either. So Lumberyard is built on a wide range of games in mind, but with the ability to be customized specifically for the needs of the developer. And in the case of Star Citizen and the Star Engine, that engine is now evolving, and all of the original customizations are in. The Star Citizen branch of Lumberyard has effectively split from the vanilla Lumberyard engine, and has unofficially been deemed what we call the Star Engine, although some people also call it Star Yard as well, unofficially, due to the amount of custom work made to it. So Star Citizen does not automatically benefit from Lumberyard updates, but a case-by-case basis is used. Features and improvements, they will look at and integrate those updates that benefit the game. Both Lumberyard and the Star Engine will continue to evolve and develop. Crytek and Lumberyard. So Crytek were having some financial difficulties when Star Citizen were with them engine-wise, so Amazon offered the fact that they were investing in tools, investing in services for the future, investing in the gaming industry, and wanted this big presence. So Amazon's strategy for gaming, specifically with Lumberyard, Twitch, and AWS, Amazon Web Services, was very much in the direction of what CIG wanted with Star Citizen. Amazon have such a powerful set of servers, massive amount of backing for their engine, that it was the smart choice to partner with them. Star Citizen is built to take advantage of cloud computing platforms since the start. They are now leveraging the power of AWS, the Amazon Web Services. This is going to lead to massive populated universe and massive populated servers, and lots of server options for players to explore, interact as they continue to evolve and improve the services. The idea eventually is to have server meshing and to have everyone on the single persistent universe shard together effectively. Twitch. So they will be showcasing some ideas for Twitch and live streaming support at Gamescom for Star Citizen. The Star Citizen integrated communication platform Spectrum is also planned.
I'm going to stop that there because that's pretty much where he deals with that subject. Someone is just asking the question. It says, I'm confused. Is Star Citizen based off CryEngine or not? I'm getting conflicting information. CryEngine was the original engine that Chris Roberts began with in 2010. Continued to work with that engine and eventually began to, you basically buy a license to do this, right? They license it to use the engine, okay? And that's Crytek's engine. They continue to modify it and work on it. And then also Amazon did the same thing, but they called theirs Lumberyard. Okay, and that is based on the CryEngine. CIG, as they were doing modifications, partners with Amazon because they're also using their version of CryEngine, which is Lumberyard, and they merge that together to be able to use the AWS system and the networking with Amazon. And they take what CIG had already been modifying with CryEngine, along with what Amazon had done to make Lumberyard, and then they come up with Star Engine. Star Engine is CIG's thing, not Amazon's thing. They took the best of all the worlds and started to mold it into their own thing. They didn't build an engine from scratch. They took a license from CryEngine and evolved it over time. And so the irony of this is that even though 2 years ago at CitizenCon, that's when we saw the big branding, right, of Star Engine fly up on the screen, fastcart.
Yeah, everybody was not everybody. People knew it was coming, but I was surprised to see it.
But here's the deal: this video you're looking at came out in 2018. They were calling it Star 2017, right? They were called, it was Star Engine back then. We just weren't paying attention. Maybe some of you all may have remembered when your splash screen came up, you would see Lumberyard and Star Engine would be down there back then. But now you've noticed Lumberyard is gone now, and all you see is Star Engine. So that's what they're operating with now. So there is history there, if that helps a little bit. Okay, if that helps a little bit.
In fact, Griffin, I would recommend you highlight that part of this show to put on the YouTube later.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know it's a lot. It's a lot that was going on with that. A lot was going on with it. Okay. All right. So thank you, Board Gamer. That was a little bit to give us a little bit of background. Now let's talk about some other things. Remember, I said some of these videos were going to be from within the community and outside of the community. No problems in Zito side. I mean, it was a very good question because it was a lot of going back and forth with what the heck is this thing? Let's look at these 2 more videos. And fastcart, I'm going to get your initial reactions to these as well. Okay. So this very first one is by Pirate Software. Some of you have seen this person before and his thoughts on the state of Star Citizen and its development.
Star Citizen, right now, is 100% a game that is in alpha that is being pitched as a storefront. They have more microtransactions and stuff that go along with that game than they have fully finished game systems. If they can finish those game systems, tie them all together, give it professions like they said they wanted to do, give it the in-game economy, the totally cohesive world, I'm in. But they've raised $630 million and they don't have those things. It's one of the most funded games in the world, and the only thing that I keep seeing expand is the storefront. I kind of like it to stop being that. Just make the game.
Okay. FC. This is FC's reactions. What are your thoughts about this?
React.
FC reacts. FC reacts. You know, and these are pretty popular content creators who are out there who many people would say know the business. They've been playing games for a while, but that's his assessment. So what are your feelings about what you heard?
I don't necessarily disagree from what what I heard. I watched it before, and unfortunately, the setup that we have, I can't hear it directly from Griffin. I'm had to go to Twitch and hear it on delay. But yeah, from what I remember, what I just heard, I don't disagree with him necessarily.
So you think his position that Star Citizen is a storefront and that it's basically just to make money, that impression definitely is what people get?
Okay, wouldn't put it that way. Yeah, it's more than just a storefront, but they do use a storefront. Yeah.
Okay.
He's not wrong in that aspect, but it's not. That's not all that Star Citizen is.
Okay.
No.
So
Yeah.
The monetary side of this crowdfunded project seems to be a huge highlight. It's a highlight from content creators. It's a highlight from publications. Why?
Quote unquote journalists.
Yeah, journalists. So my question becomes, you said it's more to it than that. Now, I'm not expecting all content creators to go deep down the rabbit hole and research and dig and try to, but is it just because the industry and money is a thing? Like we gauge stuff based upon money, that's why that becomes a central focal point of how we gauge whether or not a game is progressing? Or is it based upon the technical limitations or things that aren't achieved in the game? But money always seems to be foundational to the argument of the state of Star Citizen. No one talks time too. Time comes a factor too. Time and money.
Time is definitely a factor. Right. I'm trying to answer your question directly without answering a different question.
Okay. Well, you can ask.
Okay, so what I wanted to say was CIG has made so much money. They've been in the Guinness Book of World Records so often. They broke the world record for now, ongoing for 13 years. They become a target, and people like to pick on or choose that target for whatever reason, because they know it'll generate content for them. They know there's a general interest in that, in the argument that they choose to pick for or both. And you mentioned time, because there's so much time has passed. if CIG had put out a lesser game back in 2015, 2016, it may not have the staying power, but I'm pretty sure there will be less criticism now. I think because it's taken so long, has gone to so much money. I'm not saying if, but when CID hit that 1 billion mark, oh boy, everybody's going to come out the woodwork because that's going to be unprecedented.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to get. I don't want to necessarily say worse. I'm pretty sure the scrutiny will become higher as the closer we get to that number.
I want to go to something that Zodicide says here. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing your name correctly, so forgive me if I'm not. But he talks about microtransactions refer to online transactions involving small amounts of currency. And that's true. Usually microtransactions are amounts of money that you pay less than what you paid for in general. But you do these, they allow you to unlock certain things or do certain things in a game that maybe you can't work for or maybe you can work for. And so there may be somebody who will look at even buying a suit of armor as a form of a microtransaction. Some people may look at buying what we would consider, what most of us would call like a LTI token microtransaction. Some people might consider buying a freaking Starfare at $300 is a microtransaction.
Some people.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying it's just the fact that there's some other costs that are being spent to do something in the game, right? Now, in the early days of this game, for those of you who were around back in the old days, when we didn't have ship rentals, when we didn't have purchasing ships in the game, the only way to gain access to things in the game was to spend money. If you wanted that Connie Andromeda, there was no rentals. There was no, even though there was a new deal, you couldn't go in and buy one.
Yeah, right.
You had to spend money.
Literally before Voyager Direct.
Yeah. You had to spend money back in the day. Those days have passed. You don't have to spend that money anymore. You can work for it. You can rent ships in the game. You can use game currency to do things. So I think that part of my problem is that I feel like part of this commentary is based upon what it used to be and not currently what it is. And not that there aren't still monetary transactions going on, but we're not hearing the whole story. And you've got a notable voice out there that tells people this, and it could be something, again, if there's not an understanding of all the info. But do I expect this person to know all the info? No, I don't. I hate to say it. Do I expect the publications you talked about? Yes, I do. The publications, I do expect them to do the homework. I don't necessarily expect it. It frustrates me when the content creators speak in a very authoritative way or journalistic way about something, and you can tell they haven't done their homework.
Wrong.
Well, they just haven't done their homework. It's sometimes I don't hear content creators say, I played Star Citizen for 3 weeks and this is what I saw, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I'd be looking for. I'd be looking for people who have played the game and come back and report what their experience is. And that experience may not have all the information, but a lot of times I hear people talking about Star Citizen and it's like they haven't even played it. They haven't put any time into it. And they speak about the game in such a authoritative way that probably frustrates me more than the fact of the criticism.
And forgive me for rolling my eyes just now. I was not directing that at you, Griffin. I was thinking about, do I want to name them? Certain publications who should go unnamed at this moment, who should know better.
Yeah.
That don't.
Yeah, they don't put in the homework, which is sad. Which is sad. Okay, that was one clip. Let's take a look at a second clip here. And this one's fairly reliable source. One of the first content creators I used to watch all the time. Not that I have any problems with them, I just don't have time to watch them anymore. But take a look at this one.
If you say Star Citizen is a scam, then you don't understand what the word scam actually means. A scam is when they are intentionally trying to dissuade you from like a product that doesn't exist, or it's a lie, or something like that. Star Citizen exists. There is an alpha. It is constantly being updated. It is a real product. It is a real thing. There are real ships in it that you can buy, and then you can go in and see it. It's not a scam. It is an incredibly poorly developed, poorly managed, out of scope, over-resourced, over-marketed product. If you want a scam, look at the day before. That was a scam. The day before was a scam. Star Citizen is not a scam. It's just a mess. And it's such a mess that people think it's a scam.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts about that one, Cole Carnage? What do you think about his assessment?
Yeah, he did it in an amusing way, and yes, I may have to adjust my own definition of a scam. I think it makes a great point. There are definitely games that are scams out there. I think some people are frustrated with how long Star Citizen is taking and how much money they've accrued and how much a big deal people make about how much money they've accrued. But I don't believe it's a scam. Is there a chance that it still not succeed? Sure. But I don't think that's a scam. I just think it was just unsuccessful at that point, if that happened. But I still have confidence in the game and both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen to come to a complete product. Not complete product, because Star Citizen will never be complete. But we reached a 1.0 state, in Squadron 42's case, a release game.
Would you do me a favor? Paglamia is asking how old was that video. Would you take a look at it real quick and just let them know when that was published from Cole Carnage?
I thought I had that one, but I missed that one, so I need to go back and
The
check
link,
that
yeah,
one.
just grab the link.
What was his name again?
Cole Carnage. It's the second video in that category. It's the second category under reasons and excuses. Under reasons and excuses.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
My thing was that there were several statements that were made there, and I don't know if Cole's played the game. I have not watched to see if he's played Star Citizen. But there are statements again of statements of knowledge that maybe that's true. Is it over? Okay, let me go back. We've had people on the show. We've talked to people who are developers. We have done research online, and one of the things that keeps coming up about developing anything in software development is that if there are goals and achievements that someone wants to do, there are two things that are needed: money and time. Those are the two things. And if you have the money but not the time, you're not going to achieve it, and vice versa. If you have the time but not the money, you're not going to achieve it. Both of those are painful things when it comes to software development. Having the deep pockets to fund it, and at the same time, the luxury of time. And Star Citizen relies on both those things, but they also go counter to a consumer group of people who have paid for something and are looking for a result within what they would consider a reasonable amount of time, or after spending a reasonable amount of money. I think that becomes a point of conflict. We want the best so-and-so space game, but in order to get that, it takes time and money. Now, what is too much time and money? I don't know, but Poe's position is that there's too much money, and that it should, that from the way he described it. I do agree when he talked about the way it's marketed. We've talked about the whole thing and the way they market things of playable now. We struggle with that. I don't know if it's overly marketed. I don't know, because I know people who play games who've never seen Star Citizen. In fact, one of the videos we're going to watch on here is someone who just found out about Star Citizen within the last couple of months. Now, those of us who are Star Citizens, we always get the Star Citizen commercial come up because the algorithm shows it to us. But how many people who are not following space games see the Star Citizen trailer? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we are on our own bubble because of our algorithms. We get all the Star Citizen content. Other people who may not even be tangentially interested in maybe a space game, or maybe it's just a science fiction game, because there's a whole bunch of medieval sword magic games out there that I don't want to. It's kind of a dime a dozen, but I don't want to say that in a negative way. There's just a lot of them compared to decent space games that we're hoping Star Citizen Squadron 42 will become. But I did put the link in chat. It is December 3rd, 2024.
So it's fairly recent. Yeah, it's fairly recent. That's his assessment from a fairly recent amount of time. And some folks monitor Star Citizen from a distance. I'm not saying that people, again, have to invest and go down the rabbit hole. But sometimes when you're in positions of recognition and authority in the gaming community, you can say things that they're very powerful and can sway and affect people. Because because unfortunately we're all kind of lazy, right? We all listen to people that we admire, and whatever they say, we pretty much go with it, you know.
For me, I don't necessarily have an issue with the way and how he says it, because he's expressing his opinion, and it seems to come from a point of frustration, and I'm willing to be okay with that, put it that way, for this particular video.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's take a look at this next one. This is one that, you know, we don't quote this person too much, but I think it is important because we're showing you guys the voices who actually can have impact in the community, you know. And not that, you know, small voices don't also, because I told you some of the smaller ones that came up earlier, I've never followed them, but they popped up in my feed. But there are voices that have thousands, even maybe millions of people who listen, and they listen to them and rely on what they have to say. This one comes from Asmongold. It's a very short clip. And like I said, we don't quote him very much, but on this particular one, there was something that took place after the Star Engine video came out, since we've been talking about engines and progression. And I want to kind of show you guys that real quick, and we'll talk about that.
This is amazing. And this is all like, bro, this is like I'm watching, what was that movie, 1917. It's like all one continuous shot. This is like the warp drive. That's cool. Oh, that... Okay. This is fucking badass. Yeah, I like this a lot. Yeah. Yeah, now it's like... Because, like, you know, all the traditional, like, oh, space exploration, that's cool. But, like, whenever I see this, bro, like, this is, like, in between Armored Core and Warhammer 40K. No, I fucking love it. This is incredible. And, like, you go down and there's, like, oh, wow. I am so impressed by this. Like, I can see now why people have waited 11 years and they've given them, like, a bunch of money. I can see why they did that.
And that's kind of the thing that I want to focus on. Hey, Empty Stunner, good to see you. That's the thing I want to focus on. Someone who has played a lot of games. And I remember when that stream went on, I watched the stream later, and it was interesting to see what the comments of his viewers were saying.
Yeah,
they were saying a lot of stuff. And as he watched it, his comments were pushing back on a lot of what was being said. And a lot of what was being said was what people have heard or what they thought or whatever. But his overall thing came out to being, if it's a good game, it's a good game. I don't care about all the crazy drama. That's basically what he said toward the end. But here he makes this other statement that stuck with me a little bit. And he said, now I can understand why people have waited for this game. Now he's still on the outside, right? He's not deep into it. And I'm sure he's played it a few times. But in an alpha state, you know, is that what keeps us playing even with a game that's in alpha state that doesn't have a lot of the features and stuff? Because it has to be beyond the visual. The visuals are great, but you get used to the visuals. You know, what makes people keep coming back to the broken and busted game, fastcart, for you? I mean, what do you think it is?
For me, if you ask me directly, the community.
No. I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you. I'm asking you what makes the people keep coming back. What makes backers keep coming back to an alpha game 12 years, 13 years in?
The promise of what it could be, and Chris Roberts, well, maybe not so much Chris Roberts' vision, but what they hope Chris Roberts' vision will be for them. I think that's probably a more accurate way of saying it.
Even if it's busted and broken and frustrating and I can't get in my ship and the elevators don't work and everything else, that's what keeps people coming back.
I still want to say community, but you're not going to let me say community.
No. If you think that's what the
they
people
enjoyed, they enjoy what Star Citizen has to offer.
If you think that's what you said for yourself, and I was saying I was taking it away from you. If you think that the people do that too, I'm fine with that. My question was, what do you think? No,
because people have friends that they play with.
Okay.
The game is vastly more enjoyable the more people you have to play with.
Okay.
And I just want to point out, according to, I'm looking at it right now, he had 1.24 million subscribers. And let me see how many people view this clip.
That clip, I don't
almost
know.
Yeah, 200, almost 200,000 people have seen this clip.
And that's a clip. And I think his full Star Engine video had way more people that watched the full video, right?
Million, probably,
so,
yeah.
You've got quite a few people who have tuned in and watched it at some point. You know, again, it's, you know, I'm just throwing this out there. You know, you've got some people who are like Cole and some other people who feel a certain kind of way about it. And mind you, this was just an initial reaction that he was given. But, you know, again, the alpha state of the game can, for some people, can look amazing. And for other people, they're looking past the visuals and the gloss and everything. It's still in a tough space.
It's still amazing to me, even today. Well, this happened a few years ago. Our friend Drew, he when he was first playing the game, he went to New Babbage, and he was underneath the glass tunnel, looking out, and he was saying that's not a wallpaper. I forget what you call it, a backdrop, in the distance. And people in chat were telling him, "No, you can actually go there." And he was like, "Wait, you can go there?"
Yeah.
So it's still intriguing and amazing to me how people, I don't want to say underestimate the game, or don't know the scope of the game at this stage.
Well, I think it might also be that they're only equating to what they have seen in the past. Because normally that background that you're talking about, that skybox, would be faked.
Skybox, right.
It would be faked. So all they're doing is just repeating, you know, what the industry has been doing, right? I mean, you go back to when Assassin's Creed came out. People were freaked out because they, you know, said, "Oh, you can actually go to those places you see." And people were like, "What do you mean you can go to it?" Like that was something weird. It was weird because game developers had gotten lazy and created nothing but skyboxes and fake things off in the distance. And all of a sudden, when people could do it, we were freaking amazed, right? Same thing with Skyrim back in the day, right? Skyrim was the same thing. You know, you could go, blew you away. But how many games?
I had the opposite reaction in Arena Commander early in the development. Because in Arena Commander, you had this one blue planet, blue planet, and it looked cool, but it turned out to be it was a flat Earth. So I had the opposite reaction. I'm like, wait, that's not real?
Yeah. Gladestone, I'm gonna reprimand you again because you just love coming and using the P word in here. Chris Roberts did not promise. Stop saying promise. We keep telling y'all, developers, they don't promise stuff. They say what they want to try to do, what they want to accomplish. But even people get their feelings hurt using this thing. Oh, CIG promise. They don't promise nothing. They say that, Andy, you're being funny. Stop. they say this is what they want to do. Y'all been around long enough to know that that's what they want to do.
You know what I think part of it is? It's the whole, you've seen Lord of the Rings, not Frodo, Frodo's friend, asking, Frodo's friend had the whole scene say, "You promised, Mr. Frodo. You promised." I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it.
That's it. Samwise.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I'm only messing with Glade, but no, I have to say that because that does come across, and people feel a certain kind of way when they say they promised it, right? Admiral Kusanagi promised that every ship was going to work. Every ship. Yeah, okay. All right, we're going to watch one more video because we're getting near the end here. Now, this is a video I think that you guys will find interesting, and it is because Togi not jumping in, arguing over promised. All right, so words mean something. That's all I'm saying.
Words matter.
Words matter. So that's all I'm saying. All right, so let's take a look at this last video. And again, this video was made by somebody who just, what's the date on this one, Fastcart? Because this is a fairly new one,
April 11th.
Okay, April 11th. All right, so this is a fairly new video. And I was actually surprised to hear this person's, not only their assessment, but the fact that they said that they weren't even very much aware of Star Citizen. So let's see what they got to say. This is their own assessment.
I tried Star Citizen for the first time. I've been living under a rock and only heard about this game recently, 2 months ago. And a month ago, I bought it. And the experience has been terrible. But at the same time, I think this might be one of the greatest games ever created. And I had tons of fun. From being utterly confused and running into constant bugs, to getting employed manning a turret on the Polaris. This was my first time in Star Citizen. 2 months ago, I was feeling the need to play something space-like. I remember I bought No Man's Sky a few years ago. I was looking up guides to that game when I came across a new game with super high resolution and seemed like it was fully fleshed out. That game was Star Citizen. As the days went on, I watched more and more videos about this game, and finally, I pulled the trigger. I bought the $45 starter pack for this. By the way, this game is an alpha. I started to question what I was doing with my money. I hopped in the universe, or the verse as they say, and was greeted with an absolutely breathtaking character creation that was sort of hard to use. A precursor for what was going to happen next. And boy was I wrong about it being fleshed out. When I got done with the character screen, the tutorial was bugged and I had to learn trial by fire. The first 2 weeks of this for me was hard to understand. The game runs like a simulator, and it doesn't hold your hand even in the slightest. I was having a really hard time getting adjusted to things. Things like picking up my helmet, moving around were such a mystery to me. The inventory was really weird and strange, and I didn't understand what was going on. I tried to pick up this coffee mug, and nothing happened. So I didn't know if it was buggy or if that was how it was intended. I stopped to look around at the graphics, and I was blown away about how good the world looked already. I was trying to find my way around with a map that I could bring up, but they really want you to use the maps in-game, like on the wall, and it kind of proved to be a little bit confusing for me. I was running around all different types of ways trying to figure out what's what, and I really couldn't, but I did find where the spaceport was. But I didn't know what to do next. Finally, I figured out how to call your spaceship, had to get down to your hangar, and there it was. Elevator problem. My first starter ship. Looking back, I actually have no idea where this ship went, because I no longer have this in my possession. As I got into this ship, the controls were hard. I've played Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I have to say it really reminds me of that game. I tried to maneuver, but I had no idea what I was doing. Looking back at this footage, I have to laugh, because now I'm so much better at the game. But I did turn on the ship, and I started flying. While I was flying around, I felt it. I fell in love with the game. And I think this was the moment that I was hooked and determined to figure out the game. I was just constantly in breathtaking views. However, my vehicle got repossessed because I was flying in wrong territory or something like that. I really don't know. This game does have a learning curve, and the first 2 weeks for me was challenging to say the least. As a new player with no friends playing this game, I just didn't really know how to go about things. Something that I still find out about this game is you're not really sure whether something is a bug or if it's intended to be like that and you're just ignorant on how it works. Honestly, I could give you hours of footage of me trying to figure things out, dying, losing my ship, thinking that I lost my ship so I have to rent out a new one, not knowing how to drink water, desperately trying to find H2O. Finally, I figured out how to accept missions. Slowly, things were starting to change. I was starting to be accustomed to the environment around me. And as I was doing cargo missions, I was exploring. Somebody told me that if you rent a bigger ship, you can do more cargo. So I rented another ship. I ended up accepting a bunch of different missions, and all of these missions went to different spaceports and were from different places. And I loaded up this ship to the craziest degree. I was ready to go out into space with all of my cargo. But then I went to a moon, and I came in a little bit too hot. So I crashed and died upon impact. And what felt like 3 years of my life, which was really 2 hours of loading this thing, were just wasted like that. And I Alt F4'd and took a break from this game. Days later, after my moon crash, I hopped on and I saw in the chat one thing: gunners needed at Everest Harbor. I'm at Everest Harbor and I'm available. So I signed up. And this man brought us in his Cutlass Black as I manned the turret to go meet up with his friends. As I get into the other hangar, there it was, the Polaris. This was the biggest ship that I have seen in game so far. You see, this is a capital ship, which means that it can house a lot of players. And it was at this point that I realized the scope of what Star Citizen could be and what drives people to Star Citizen. It's not solo gameplay. It is group gameplay. I had never played with anyone up to this point, so this is my first experience playing with other people. And to be in a Polaris doing missions with them was insane. I didn't really know what was going on. I'm not sure that I really got good hit points on the turret. I'm not really sure if I was that helpful, but I had fun. It reminded me of raiding in World of Warcraft, where you have a lot of people and you have to coexist with each other, come up with a plan, execute it, and work with each other. And as buggy as this game is, I feel like I got a glimpse at what this is about. Stacking boxes. I felt like I was a part of a fleet. I felt like there was a captain. We found a couple of spaceships that had cargo in it. We went over, got the cargo, loaded it up, and sold it on the black market. And I got a big chunk of change for that journey. Thanks to that small message in Everest Harbor, the game opened up for me. I think that this game might have the potential to be one of the best MMOs, if not the best MMOs in history, but it's got a lot of bugs. Various ship issues, elevator problems. When there's elevator problems, no one can use the elevators, and it's really, really tough to loot things. I'm not sure why that is or why that hasn't been addressed, but it seems like a basic thing. And sometimes when I'm talking to the community about this, I feel like I'm going insane. In comparison to my 1 month in this game, people have been here for literally a decade. So they know the ins and outs of what this game is supposed to be, why things are the way that they are. But I want to show you something that is just insane to me about this game. And I found this to be the reason why I don't play so much. Time sinks. Now, you can change this a little bit, but when you log in, you either log in at a space station or your home planet. And you better hope that you don't log in on a planet, because that's gonna take even extra time. Now you gotta walk to the elevator, take an elevator to the hangar, and most of the time, you have to file a claim to get your spaceship. I understand, it's very immersive, but let's say you get out of that hangar and you're on Grim Hex, and somebody instantly shoots you down, or you happen to run into an asteroid 2 feet out of the station. Now you have to wake up again. By the way, there's a loading screen. There's a buffering time. So wake up again. You have to get out of your room, go to the elevator, go back to the hangar place, file a claim. I just bought a Constellation Taurus. I love it. But to file a claim on this spaceship is 17 minutes without insurance and 5 minutes with insurance. Well, there's other things to do. We need to make death mean something in this game. Let's be honest, there's really nothing to do right now. I have all my armor, I have my food. I'm not gonna just go walk around the space station that I've already seen a bunch of times. In all reality, I will Alt-Tab out of this moment, and sometimes it'll be like 10 to 15 minutes before I come back because I got distracted, and then I finally get into my ship. And I understand that this is supposed to be like realistic, but this is not fun. And it makes me hate this game. And there's a bunch of things like this. There's a bunch of weird time sinks. They're definitely conscious decisions. I don't understand why the looting system works the way that it does. I don't understand why the inventory system works the way that it does. But there's beauty in that. I'm going to talk about the one thing that I really, really like about this game and why I have been playing it so much, despite the bugs, despite all the problems, and despite the design issues. I like to play this game because it reminds me of a true MMO. I used to play World of Warcraft as a kid in 2004. Back then, you had something called Baron's Chat. And in this game, you have Global Chat. And Global Chat reminds me a lot of Baron's Chat. There was a lot of players in Baron's Chat, and that's why it had such a renown for being a chaotic group channel. And in Global Chat in this game, you can find a lot of players. And sometimes it's chaotic, sometimes it's very helpful. It's just full of life. And that is what makes this MMO interesting, is that despite all the bugs, despite despite everything, this game is full of life. This game is full of passionate players, players that want to play, and players that will help you out. I have been gifted so much money to help me out when I say that I'm a new player. That reminds me of early World of Warcraft, helping out players. I have had my hand taken with no judgment and brought across the solar system to do missions with. That reminds me of early World of Warcraft. You don't even find that in current World of Warcraft. You really don't find that in a lot of video games at all. And it's interesting because this game has been out for so long, but there's still new players. And I felt like at some point I kind of knew my way around things and I was helping other people. And so as much as I think that the community is sort of crazy, I think that they've got a special mojo going on with this game. I feel like it's a really alive community, and that is what I really love about it. And that's why I'm going to continue playing this, is because of the people, not necessarily because of the game. Although if they nail this, if they fill out some of the things with this game, it could be one of the greatest games ever created, period.
Okay. So FC, give me your thoughts. I know you said you didn't get to watch all of the videos. I don't know if this is one of the ones you did get to watch.
I've seen it from previously.
Okay, what are your thoughts on this one?
I feel him on the character creator at the very beginning of the video. It's amazing, but there is a learning curve to it. I feel that I'm just good. I'm not good at creating characters. I just don't have that artistic thing, so it's gonna take me a bit, even with 1.0, to get the kind of character that I want. So I feel him on that. Just something he mentioned that the pet peeve of yours, not a pet peeve, but something you like to point out, how people have to go in game and look at the walls and look at the maps on the wall to figure out where they're going instead of relying on a mini map. Yes, that's one of the realism things that a citizen likes to portray. And I think that'll throw a lot of people off because people are so used to having that in-game, that mini map in-game and on their screen just to help them out. So I don't know what can be done about that, because that is such a prevalent thing. A lot of people are gonna have issues with that. At the end, some people heard him when he said, as a kid in 2004, he played World of Warcraft. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, not saying that all young people will have issues with this, but I can see people who aren't used to the kind of game. Maybe they were more used to like a theme park, like WoW, which is something that's kind of a sandbox like Star Citizen.
Yeah.
That may be a barrier for some people.
Yeah.
One of the last things he said that it's been out for so long. Oh man, I wish he hadn't said that. Or said it like that. I know what they were trying to say, but saying it like that has a certain connotation that is unfortunate. Put it that way.
Yeah. DC Creator said something earlier that I was thinking. He said, imagine what it's like being a new player coming into Star Citizen where the game is now versus like those of us who've been around a long time. And after watching this video, one of the things that stuck out to me was, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, gang, so just kind of bear with me when I say this. I am just short of the generation of Chris Roberts. In other words, age and gaming history wise. And a lot of times there are things that we want to introduce to a generation of people the way things used to be, not the way they are. And when I hear people today talk about time sinks with Star Citizen, I never feel that. And the reason why I never feel it is because I came up in games where investing the type of time that people call a time sink now was normal. There was no, what do you call those things that you do when you can transport across the land very quickly? What's the term, y'all?
Contracts?
Huh?
Contracts?
No. Guys, what do you call it in the game when you can like step on a portal and jump across the land so that you ain't got to go? No, not teleport. Fast travel.
Fast travel, okay.
There was no fast travel.
Right. right. I get you.
If you walked from one town to another, when you wanted to walk to the other town, you walked back to the other town. I play Mortal Online 2. When we're in Mortal Online 2, if it takes you 45 minutes to walk to a town, you have to take 45 minutes to walk back. You actually have to think about the fact that, man, if I walk to this town, I got to spend 45 minutes walking back. That's the way gaming was. Now, I'm not saying that because it was that way, that was the best way. I'm just saying, but because that's the way I played games. When we talk about being in a ship and taking this much time to do this, that, and the other, to me, it's okay. That's what you got to do. Now, let me say this real fast, Cart. There are things in the game, though, that are going to minimize so that you don't feel that way. For example, when he talked about when you wake up, you got to get out of your bed, you got to walk down your thing, you got to get on the elevator. We all know that later on the game is designed for when, and some of us do it now. We log out in our ship and we wake up in our ship. So we don't have to do all that. There are a lot of players that don't. There are a lot of players that go back to a landing zone and land and then do all of the get on the train and the tram and get frustrated when you don't have to do that now. You can store everything on your ship if you want to, but then if there's a bug, there's a problem. So there are aspects of the game development that he doesn't know about, and I can understand when he says, man, it seems like we're spending like a lot of time sync running back and forth and getting on trams. That's very true, but we also know that if the game is in its working space, that will no longer be a time sync. But I've heard talk about people talking about time syncing crossing the systems or going from system to system, and they want fast travel. For me, no, I don't want fast travel. I want that feeling of travel. And yes, it does take time. And now you say, yeah, Griffin, you're retired. You got plenty of time to do that. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. And that is true. I cannot argue that point. I can't. But there was a time when like I have now, I have a family, I had a job, I had places to be, I had other commitments, and yet and still, I played those games with no fast travel that literally you only got so much done in a session. Sometimes you got to accomplish something, and sometimes all you got to do was work toward accomplishing something. So I know I don't want to get off too far on the alpha thing, but I'm saying that these things that are a part of the alpha, and it's funny because he opens up talking about the fact that the game is alpha, but he also talks about, I can't tell what's a bug. I can't tell what's supposed to be part of the game. He talked about the inventory system, which we know that the looting system, rather, which we know that looting is just at the tier 0 thing, and they're supposed to be changing that. The inventory system is not where it's supposed to be. So for him coming in, even though he said it was alpha, he's also speaking about it as if, well, is this the final way it's going to look? And it's not. Mm-hmm. So he's struggling.
It's been out so long.
Yeah, so he's also struggling because of that, right? Because he doesn't know, right? So I appreciated the video because it gave some fresh eyes so that we don't get so cynical about people coming to the game. Because sometimes they'll see stuff that is very much right, but we've just gotten so used to it, or we just dismiss it as no big deal. But for someone coming to the game, it could be a blocker that makes them say, I don't want to play this game. But one of the things, Fastcart, to your point, and I'll let you say what you're going to say, was he said that the thing that he really enjoys was he felt like he enjoyed it more when it came to community and playing with other people. Not that you can't solo it, but he said he got way more satisfaction playing the game with other people. What were you going to say, FC?
Yeah, one of the things I wrote down when I was watching the video is like, when he mentioned his first time playing with other people, I have to wonder how long did he go, because he mentioned it might have been a month before he started playing with other people. So I don't know what he was doing off and on during that month before he started playing with other people. But I'm glad he got the chance to finally play with other people.
Yeah.
And I think to enhance his enjoyment of the game. Earlier in the video, he said that he 2 hours of the game before he crashed his ship because it came too hot. He lost 2 hours of the game, but it felt like 3 years. Yeah. I'm like, dang, how old is this guy?
Well, no, what he's saying, he's putting in, because remember he talked about how many hours it took him just to learn how to do something.
Right.
So if he was just trying to, he may have spent literally 30 minutes to an hour just trying to figure out how to get out of the hangar. You know what I mean? Or like you said, he didn't even know how to he finally found the hangar. Remember he said that I finally found the hangar. So if he spent a couple days, 3 days wandering around trying to figure out buying things, and then finally he gets outside, and the first time he goes out there, he crashes.
Oh, but he said 2 hours. He said 2 hours equal 3 years to him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's my point. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. For me, I never played WoW. Not that I really. Well, I guess I did avoid WoW because I didn't like the look of it, the aesthetic of it. I played Final Fantasy 11 back then, but between level 1 and level 20, you had to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
When you reach level 20, you were able to access a airship, and that wasn't fast travel per se.
Yeah.
But it was faster
It was
travel.
faster.
Yeah, when you reach level 15, you could start riding a chocobo. Again, that wasn't instant travel. It wasn't fast travel, but it was faster travel.
Yeah.
I forget when we were actually able to fast travel in that game. I want to say level 25. Don't quote me on that, but it took us a while. So I'm with you. I'm used to being able to not fast travel, but I find fast travel is convenient. But I can do it out because I have already access. The game that I played provided access to other ways to travel and get around. Because when you air travel, it took like 3 minutes to go in between in between cities.
Yeah.
When you take a chocobo, it could take, instead of taking 30 minutes, it would maybe take 15.
Yeah.
And then because you're on the chocobo, the mobs and creatures around wouldn't attack you.
Yeah.
Until you spent over 20 minutes on the chocobo. So there was some qualities of life that made traveling easier as you leveled up.
Yeah.
But you don't have that really.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Fast travel, I've played games with fast travel and used fast travel. I get it. Because sometimes the worlds are so big. You know, the games mind you, the games I played earlier were not as big as these games either, y'all. So I will have to say that as a waiver. Those worlds were much smaller, but we didn't have fast travel. But now as those worlds have gotten bigger and covered more ground, I can understand a progression, like you were saying, fastcart, that maybe when you first start, all you're doing is walking everywhere. Then eventually maybe you get a horse, and then eventually you get some type of winged creature, right? And then eventually maybe you have some magical ability that allows you to do stuff. That's a different level of progression, right? But I'm saying that, the idea of time sinks for me is I have a different perspective of time sinks than maybe some other people have, because people feel time sink as a waste of time, and I'm hoping CIG continues to develop things in the game that makes it so that people don't feel like their time is being wasted. Some of the hints that they've given us are things such as, maintaining and cleaning weapons, fixing your armor, things like that will help you say that these are things I got to do before I get somewhere. Because right now you've just got one person flying a ship, somebody sitting in a turret, and everybody's just sitting around doing nothing, right? And that can feel like wasted time, but we'll have to see. Anyway, that's a whole nother subject, but I hope you guys have enjoyed the conversation that we've been talking about. You guys have been saying a whole lot of stuff in chat. I've been trying to watch everybody's chat and stuff. And don't be joking around about us retirees. I saw Glade say something and Stunner and some other people talking about us old retirees in the game. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed the conversation that we've had today, and you guys have said a whole lot. That's it, I think.
We have one Q&A.
Oh yeah, we got a question. Yeah, what's our question that we have?
This is from Pot and Face.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Star Citizen's recent free fly to attract new supporters while in alpha was a wise financial move for CIG? I don't think I don't recall the result of the recent free fly. I don't know if it was a success or not a success. In the past, they've been hit or miss. Hopefully, this one was a hit. But I haven't heard yay or nay about that. How about you? I have heard that we are getting fewer accounts made during free flies recently than in the past. That's what I've been hearing.
I would say the CIG's general history is if it don't work, they stop doing it. And so evidently it works enough that they will continue to do it. And when the previous one before this was scheduled, they canceled it. They didn't have it. And that was one of the first times I remember them literally advertising that they're going to do it and then all of a sudden shutting it down and saying, we're not going to do it. So if they felt the need to do it again, their numbers or their analytics must say it's worthwhile, even if the numbers are less than what they've been in the past. I think that the free fly, the difficulty pops, to answer your other part of that question, is just like this guy we just watched said that the game was an alpha. That phrase translates to this game is busted and probably not working. And yet and still he walked away asking a zillion questions about why stuff wasn't working. Right? So even if you tell people it's an alpha, they come to a game with a certain expectation of accomplishment, and when it's not there, it's a problem. So even if we tell people it's an alpha, it's a free fly, and you don't have to pay anything, there will still be people who will come in and say, oh, this game is horrible, it's terrible. Well, it's an alpha. It's not a beta. And so it's difficult. But evidently, there are people who hang in there or remain curious or come back, even if it's just because it's free. You know, they didn't have to put any money in and they gave it a try, you know? So I don't know.
I think part of the issue is if it was like maybe 250 million as opposed to 800 million, people would be more, less, what's the word I want to say? Not favorable, but more understanding of the game if it was less money involved.
If there was less money, that you mean like the crowdfunding side of it?
The crowdfunding side of it, yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with the people that decide to play it.
At the time,
I think it's no. I think it's the state of the game. That's the big issue for people. If they come in and they have a good experience, then I think they're okay. If they come in and they don't have a confusing experience, I mean, Free Fly, not to be funny, but we all know that the learning curve for this game is not small. That was part of his frustration, was him being here by himself, trying to learn everything with no good tutorial and nothing to help him learn all. I mean, just the maps thing on the wall.
What do you think a person would go? At what point do you think a person would go? I should maybe look at YouTube videos to help me out on this.
I don't even think YouTube videos are enough to learn this game. There's so much nuance because we talked about this before. Sometimes who tells you I went in a ship and I turned this on, it didn't work, and then somebody says just get out of the seat and get back in it. There ain't no tutorial out there telling you that. You know what I'm saying? That's because you played with somebody who tells you try getting out of the seat, and then you get back in the seat. Oh, it works now. You know, that's that weird learning curve stuff that's unofficial. You know what I mean?
And people never think. I don't think new players especially think about going to like known issues to and work around and stuff like that.
Yeah, the workarounds and stuff. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to log out and get on a better server, right? You know, it worked great yesterday and today it's not working, and it's just because the server's crapping out on you. Who tells you that the server's crapping out? You know, so there's so much weird learning curve that's both official and unofficial to this game for people that to me could make either a bad experience, or the fact that there's that person who happened to be there to tell you, just do this and you know, there's the workaround for it and you keep playing. So it can vary as far as I'm concerned.
We did get one new question. I think this will probably be the last question because we are running over. But this is from Joe's side. Will Star Citizen ever break into the top 5 games long term or stay niche forever? What could attract more players? That's 2 questions in one. But I think the first part is, do you think Star Citizen will ever break in the top 5 games long term or will stay niche forever? I don't want to say forever, but I think it will be pretty much niche. Because it's like EVE Online is still niche and it's been around for 20 years. So if Star Citizen stays around for 20 years, I think it'll still be niche in 20 years, in my opinion. How about you?
Yeah, if you're saying top in the sense of like a category, right? Like if you're going to say space MMO, something weird like that, I think you could probably find a ranking for it somewhere. It's in the top 10 right now, believe it or not, for MMOs. But to Fastcart's point, it is still niche. It's still niche. Like you said, EVE is. They're these games have been around a long time.
And Elite Dangerous is still niche.
Elite is too. Yeah, it's a certain type of player type of game, right? That's what it comes down to. It's a certain type of player type of game. Not open to everybody to play the type of game, even though it offers a lot. It's still, I think it'll be niche personally, and I think and you can have a healthy number and be niche. You don't have to be the #1 game and win the Game of the Year award at the Game Awards or anything like that. You know, you just want a consistent community that's playing and happy and wants to continue to play the game when it's all said and done.
And real quickly, what could attract more players? 1.0 release.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, that's an easy answer because that encompasses everything.
Answer. Yeah, I agree.
But my answer goes along with that. I wouldn't say a 1.0 release. I think that we've already seen features is great, right? Features are great. They draw people to come in. But if people don't feel accomplishment, satisfaction, consistency, all the things it says when I come back to the game, my progressions are there, and I come back tomorrow and I know what I can get from this game when I play it. I think that, and that becomes 1.0, right? The commercially viable game that Chris Roberts says that people can come back to and play. So the game needs to be stable. It needs to play well. It needs to give people a feeling of reward and satisfaction. And that will bring, even if you bring back the old players, the millions of people who only come when a patch comes out, but now they're playing the game all the time. You know, we've already seen that. In one of my orgs that I'm in, we've got a whole new brand of new names and faces that I don't even know that are playing the game almost daily. The old folks ain't there because they're still remembering how it's not together, but the new people have a different feeling about the game and they're playing the game, right? And that's because it's fresh for them. I get that. Will they eventually start to fall off? Maybe, but I think if the game continues to get solid, consistent, then you'll start getting more people that will play. You know, it doesn't have to be new people, but definitely if you want the game to be like fastcart said, if you want new people, you want the game to be working. Okay. Alrighty.
All right, that's it for first question and answers. Thank you very much for those.
Absolutely. Just a real quick, a couple notes for what's coming up. Forgive me if I'm sounding tired. We just got back from Las Vegas today. CC Creator and I went out. As you guys know, we have been preparing for I can't remember the name of the thing. Quantum Vegas 2955. We're going to show you the quick promo on that, and then gonna give you just some real quick good insider information, and then we're gonna wrap up the show. I think we're going to show the video.
Quantum Vegas 2955 is a community celebration of the Star Citizen universe, uniquely designed to immerse attendees in the creative and technical brilliance of the game. Hosted in the unparalleled conference environment of Area 15 in Las Vegas, Nevada, this inaugural event offers direct access to developers from Cloud Imperium Games, influential community leaders, as well as other Star Citizen backers. This event offers interactive sessions with special guests covering the complexity of game development to community-driven experiences in a unique and intimate setting. Quantum Vegas 2955 is more than a convention. It's an immersive gateway into the Star Citizen legacy, an unmissable highlight on the gaming calendar. For tickets and information, visit quantumvegas.space and follow our social media on X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Quantum Vegas 2955. By the community, for the community.
Alrighty, Quantum Vegas 2955. We're hoping that you all are considering, or maybe said, I'm going to go. Come out to this event that is being sponsored by the Star Citizen community. We're having it on July 12th at Las Vegas. We were there this weekend. We had to do a technical walkthrough of the venue. And I can tell you that Area 15 is an amazing place. It is very, 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 very cool. The place where we're having this event. We're going to have like a whole from 9 till 6 day of nothing but Star Citizen. For those of you who would like to go to CitizenCon, we know we're only doing that online now. So, hey, here's an opportunity for you to hook up and come with us over here. We've got some folks from CIG that are going to be there. We've got special guests that are going to be there. We've got some amazing giveaways that we're going to be doing. We've got sponsors from, God, I can't remember who all the sponsors are. We've got Monster Tech. We were talking with CLX this weekend. We've got Thrustmaster. I can go down the list of all the different folks, but it's going to be a really, really, really great inaugural event. Here's the deal. Tickets right now are at their lowest price. May 1st, the ticket prices are going up. So they're $75 right now. We want you to, if you're really interested in going, we want you to take advantage of it and get your tickets now to come out to this event. Vegas is really going to be cool to go to. Y'all know that things are kind of slow in Vegas right now. People are getting good deals on hotels and stuff. So really want you to think about it. We've got some time before July 12th to go to this. Yeah, FC, we're going to say.
And to Griffin's point, I was just looking at airline prices last night. Last night. I saw a $270 round trip ticket from Boston to Las Vegas. I almost got it, but yeah, they are going down. So yeah, check it out.
Yep. And we're going to have a great time. So a lot of us are going. FC's going to be there. I'm going to be there. A lot of folks are going to be there. CIG's excited about being there. Some of the content creators. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a blast. There's a Bar Citizen the day before. Bar Citizen International is sponsoring that we're having there at Area 15. We're just gonna have a really great time that weekend. So hopefully you guys can join us. So we look forward to that. But check out the website. Go to quantumvegas.space. Take a look at it. If you can't go, but you want to support us with this. This is our first time doing it. There is a donation pay button there. If you want to throw something in there to help us, we would really appreciate it, because as you guys know, doing events like this are no small task. We've got some great volunteers throughout the community. That people coming from the world. We got some people coming from Germany even that are coming over to help us. From Beacon, Commander Fran is coming. So it's going to be like a really, really great weekend. So I'm not going to beat that horse anymore, because we talk about it every week, but we want to let you know that the ticket prices are changing on May 1st. April 30th is the last day that you can get the prices at $75. So hopefully you can join us for that. Okay, I think that's it. Let's talk about what we've got coming up next week. We are going to be doing a show called Formation. We did this about 3 years ago. We talked about logistics a little bit, but we're going to be doing a show that goes, logistics kind of covered a whole lot of stuff, but this one is going to be talking about the more of the art of war side of things. As you guys know, fleets, and we've talked about these ideas of fleets and fleet battles, and since things like the Polaris have come in, and there's rumors of these other ships that might be coming into the game, especially, you know, people are anticipating ships like the Perseus and the Idris. We're going to be talking about what is this whole thing about compiling fleets, and how are fleets made up? Why do you make them, and all this other stuff? We're beyond this solo gameplay thing. How do these ships come together with their different abilities that they're supposed to have and work together? Whether you've got a small org or a large org, we're going to be talking about that next week. So hopefully you guys will be able to join us for that. We're going to have a guest on that I haven't asked about this show yet, and I'm hoping that they will say yes. So we're going to be doing that on next Sunday.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. And then lastly, we're going to be starting to get out more information about Lore Lighthouse as we continue to move toward the progression of Star Citizen with Pyro, and hopefully Nyx is going to be coming up. We keep hearing rumors about Nyx. We want to start getting into this stuff about lore. And there was a great show on the narrative team last week where they've been talking about their evolutions. So we're going to be kind of talking about the direction that Star Citizen is going. Hopefully you guys will join us with that. Serious Fun is going to be hosting that show. We're going to be putting out some dates for May as well, with that coming up, and having guests come on for that show as well. And I think that is about it. Fastcart, who are we going to raid?
I knew I forgot something.
You forgot.
Sorry.
You forgot that
you had all that time. That's on me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. He was so much enjoying himself. He was enjoying himself. Let's see.
Yeah, it's always a joy being here with you, Griffin. You know that.
There goes the butter. There goes the butter. We're in trouble now. We're in trouble now.
Someone new? Someone.
I'm trying to see. Verity is on.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
Wallace is on to. Let's see.
I always see Gab. I never know if that's new or rewind.
Yeah, I know you can never tell, right? I'm gonna go with Sugar Wallace this time because he's only got 27. Because Verity's has Verity got a lot of people.
Okay.
Verity got a lot of people watching her right now. I don't know. I saw her.
No.
Oh, what you mean? No, she got 180 viewers. What are you talking about?
Oh, wait, what? Not the one I was looking at. Maybe she had two streams going.
Verity? Really?
Oh, Verity. I thought you said Gap.
No, Verity.
You're coming in and out.
Am I? Sorry.
You're coming in and out. Yeah.
Sorry about that. My apologies.
No problem.
All right. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to go to Sugar Wallace. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Doing some stuff with the saber here. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. When you get over with Sugar Wallace, let them know that you came over from the Soul Citizens. Once again, thank you guys for hanging out with us. All the great comments and stuff in the chat today. Really appreciate you for being here with us and supporting us as always. Don't forget to check out quantumvegas.space when you get time as well. And we want you guys to take care of yourselves. Stay safe as always. Fastcart, thanks for the show tonight. And as always, we'll say it. Peace, love. Go ahead and close us out, Fastcart.
And Soul.
See you guys later. Take care.